90% of what we're doing today manually on IT will be automated in one or the other way.
Hello and welcome. We're bringing you a masterclass on banks in a perfect storm, and this is the third chapter dealing with radical cost takeout at banks. I'm Brian Kaplan, editor of The Banker, talking to Bart van den Daele, General Manager for IBM's Financial Services Unit Europe. So Bart, we all know that banks need to reduce costs, but what is it when we're talking about radical cost takeout? What do we mean there?
Yeah, Brian. So radical cost actually is not brutal cost takeout. Right? Radical is based on transformation. Transformation that is also highly needed in the financial sector. So based on transformation, really.
And how are we going to go about doing that then?
Yeah, so I think first of all, the whole banking industry is more and more digitizing, right? Which means that the back end of the banks also needs to adapt to that. So we're talking hybrid cloud, we're talking centralization, globalization, different operating models that then basically are supporting massive cost takeout behind it.
Okay, because we've always heard a lot about, it's the back office. So take out the back office and that will reduce your costs. But I think you're talking about something much more than that here, aren't you? You're talking about the back office, the middle office, and really much more thoroughgoing across the whole organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, we're talking about 30 to 40% cost reduction to the cost basis of the banks today. Right? So what you see is the whole model of banking is being challenged by the fintechs, by also the security regulations, the compliances that we need to do. So we're basically talking about the way that you do business, and then from the front office, as you say, Brian, towards the back end, optimizing the whole process, driving it into standards, cloud, hybrid cloud, that basically also enables easier compliance, et cetera, and then finally also automation that basically pushes your cost down.
All right, but when we talk about centralizing the bank, I mean, does that literally mean that you have one big hub in one place, or are we talking about more digitally, so it's more of a digital concept?
Yeah, I think the latter. The point of complete globalization or localization in one point will ultimately not work. That's also why the cloud structures are being more and more adapted. We are creating more data today than the speed of light can carry. So continuously consolidating to one point is not going to work anymore. Therefore, you also need to standardize, bring it to cloud, whether that is public or private clouds, to then basically be capable of processing that data there where it is on cloud computing capability locally.
And how far do you think the banks have got with some of this process? I'm particularly talking about the cloud, because it's something that they've been a bit tentative about, isn't it?
Yeah, I think not that far yet. I think all banks are more and more moving into it now. I think they have been challenged going there for multiple reasons. First of all, the compliancy around it. I mean, the regulators are very sensitive to data privacy, to security, which has created some prudency of the banks. Secondly, very big legacy implementations of applications the banks are using across the board, which then need to be brought to a new standard, which is also a cost. And finally, I think so many challenges that the banks have been introduced to in the last 2-3 years.
All right, and give us a little bit of an idea about where we'll end up with this process. I mean, how many manual processes, or what percentage of manual processes are we going to really take out of the operation, and what will it look like at the end?
Oh, that's a very difficult question. I think, let me try to put a percentage. I think 80-90% of what we're doing today manually on IT will be automated in one or the other way. But it will depend on the business processes that are going with it or not. Let me give you a very simplistic example. When you go into retail banking, just a current account, at this moment in time, the labor component in that at the front office, the branch offices, is pretty big still. With the interest ratios we are facing at the market today, the banks will be forced to give that branch network a complete other meaning. That process, pure current accounts, is going to go from a pretty labor-intensive structure today in a branch up to a completely digitized process where you and I will basically do everything via our mobile or via our PC.
Okay, and I think that's the point, isn't it? Because I mean, when you talk about 30-40% cost reduction, which sounds like an enormous amount, as you say, it's not cost cutting, it's transformation and changing the way that you operate. That's really the key, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the real cost reduction you can do for standardization in ICT, in your back end as well as in your front end, is probably 15-20%. Once you start really digitizing end to end and moving it to cloud and hybrid cloud, then you're talking end-to-end processes where you're going to get to the 30-40%. So you need to transform to get to those percentages. But
Okay.
it's perfectly possible.
Okay, but we're going to come back and talk about cloud and cybersecurity in just a second. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.